friends, it's Nicole from Flower Hill Farm, and we are at the end of the coldest weekend that we've had all winter long. I woke up this morning to -8 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about -22 degrees Celsius. And that's about the coldest we've had here. And it's not usually our coldest. We're in zone 4B. I'm in upstate New York. Our cold, like our low for the winter, is usually around -20 or -25 degrees. That's what makes us zone 4B. And we haven't seen those cold temperatures. January is usually our coldest month of the year. So hopefully those really cold temperatures are going to be behind us, and we'll see what February brings. You never know what's going to happen. But these cold temperatures and this long month of January has me dreaming about my spring bulbs. And I just shared a picture on my Instagram account of the Queen of the Night tulips that I was harvesting by the arm loads this past spring. Oh my goodness, they were so magical. They are almost black, but really they're a dark, dark purple. And you could just see the different, I don't know, it was almost like an iridescence to them. They were just so gorgeous. And now I'm thinking even more about all of my spring bulbs, the daffodils, the tulips, the hyacinth, all of those amazing things that burst onto the scene in spring. And this leads me to a popular question that I see not only here on my videos, but also in other forums where people are growing things for profit. And I wanted to talk about two of those things right now. I see it all the time, and people say, are tulips a profitable cut flower? So I wanted to share my experiences so far with you. First, let me explain. Tulips are considered an annual flower in the world of flower farming. When you're growing flowers for profit, you are considering tulips an annual, a one and done flower. And let me tell you why. And the normal response is, what? What do you mean they're one and done? I have tulips in my property, in my landscape, and I leave the bulbs in the ground and they grow back every year. Well, my first question usually is, did you ever cut that tulip, or are you letting that tulip bloom in your yard and letting it die back naturally? There's a big difference between cutting the bulb and letting it die in its natural state. If you do cut that flower, there's a good chance that it's not going to have enough energy for that bulb to throw up another bloom the following year. And in most cases, flower farmers are pulling the bulb up from the ground because A, it stores longer, and B, the flower lasts longer. When you freshly pull the bulb right out, you get a longer vase life on that tulip because you're cutting it at the last possible minute. So there are a couple of reasons why pulling the bulb is the best idea. Also, it means you don't have to go through and dig up those bulbs at the end of the season. So let me explain a little bit further. Okay, so a lot of people are flower farming in maybe a smaller area. Let's say they have a raised bed that's designated for their flowers to sell in the spring. So let's say they let's say they have 500 tulips. They cut them all down and they leave the bulb in the ground. And they cross their fingers and hope that those bulbs are going to produce the following year. Let's say it comes back at about a 60% rate. So now you have 40% that did absolutely nothing. And if you're banking on those flowers to sell and make a profit, well, that's why they're considered annuals, because you cannot rely on them to come back in any sort of farming fashion. It's just not economical, and a lot of people are trying to do their business on small spaces, so you have to make sure that the space you're using is going to provide flowers for you. Okay, so let's take a look at the actual numbers. So last year I planted about 1,500 daffodils and about 2,000 tulips, give or take, a few more I believe. But for this video, let's just say 1,000 of each. Let's take 1,000 of each and work off of this example. I like easy numbers. And these are some actual prices, and this is actually the investment that I made in these. So for the 1,000 daffodils, I spent almost exactly $300. And for 1,000 tulips, I spent $330. Now we have to add in shipping, and I'm not exactly sure on the shipping rate because I also had a lot of other things in this order, including peonies and more tulips and more daffodils. But let's say shipping is $50. Let's split it in half. So now the investment that I have in the daffodils is $325, and the investment that I have in the tulips is $355. Now let's add in the fertilizer. I did use bulb tone on the daffodils. I do not use bulb tone on the tulips because they're not staying in the ground for more than one season, and I don't feel that they need it. They have all the energy that they need in that tulip ready to go. But I do use it on the daffodils. So I add $20 for a bag of bulb tone for my 1,000 daffodils. So that brings us up to $345 for my daffodils and $355 for my tulips. So now let's talk about labor, because we don't really ever count our labor when we're talking about farming. It's very rare that a farmer pays themselves a wage, but let's be realistic here. And let's say it took me 4 hours to plant the tulips and 4 hours to plant the daffodils. Let's just go with a minimum wage. Let's say $15 an hour for each. So I'm gonna add $60 to both of those totals for a grand total of $395 invested in my daffodils and $405 invested in my tulips. So at this point, they're roughly the same. For both of these flowers, I sold them 3 different ways. I sold some to a florist, I sold some in my CSA bouquets, I would say the majority of them, and then I also sold some retail. So the price points were kind of all over the place, but for this video, let's say I sold them on average for $1.25 a stem. Now this might be higher if you're only planning on selling to a florist, but if you're planning on selling retail, that's closer to what you're gonna get for a stem. Obviously, they have fancier tulips and fancier daffodils, and those are gonna make you more money, but they're also gonna cost you more money. I do tend to favor the ones on the fancy schmancy side. Okay. So, all right, we have 1,000 of each. We are selling them for $1.25 each. Simple math. So I'm selling $1,250 worth of tulips and $1,250 worth of daffodils. Now, let's subtract the profit. Now let's subtract our investment to see how much money 1,000 tulips it actually makes you. So for the daffodils, we're coming in at $855, and for the tulips, it's $845. So it's pretty even, but here's where things get different. Let's fast forward to spring 2021 right now. I still have those 1,000 daffodils in the ground. I don't have any tulips. If I want another 1,000 tulips, I have to bring another 1,000 tulips in. So my investment for the daffodils for 2021 is 0. I didn't have to fertilize them. I didn't have to do any work. They're just sitting in the ground waiting to bloom for me again. Isn't that a beautiful thing? So now my 2021 profit is going to look even better because I had to spend nothing on my daffodils. So for the tulips, I've got to spend an additional $405, and then I'll make the exact same profit, that $845. Now, for my daffodils, because I had to invest $0, and let's say 25% of them have multiplied, so now I have 1,250 stems of daffodils at $1.25 a stem, and now my profit is $1,562.50. And I didn't have to do a thing. Let's fast forward another season. Let's go to spring 2022, and let's say they increased again by 25%. Now my daffodils are making me an even bigger profit at over $1,800, and I still haven't done a thing. Now for the tulips, I had to order more, I had to plant them again. So the profit on the tulips is gonna stay the same every single year. Let's fast forward even one more year, 2023. Amazingly, they multiplied again, because that's what daffodils do. And now I have an even greater profit, over $2,000 in my tulips, still sitting at that $845 profit for the same 1,000 bulbs. So basically, to answer everyone's question, are tulips profitable? Well, I don't think you're gonna lose money selling tulips. I don't. I think you're always gonna be able to get a higher price point than the investment that you have in them. Is it going to make you rich? I don't think so. None of this is gonna make you rich. But in my book, daffodils are a winner because you plant them once and they keep on giving. And they're just so generous, they're so beautiful, and you can get such fancy varieties. I'm just completely enamored with them. And for some people, the scent is too strong, but for me, it's just perfection. I could live in a room with the smell of daffodils 365 days a year. I really could. I want to talk quickly about some other things that I do notice a lot of flower farmers doing, and that's putting an even bigger investment into their tulips by building raised beds and bringing in compost. So you're adding, at least for the first year, you're adding into your investment and you're taking away from your profit. For me, I just put them in the ground. I till it up and I put them into the ground. I don't even really use a tractor. I just use my bare hands. I like to get dirty. I like the grunt work. That's part of the reason why I do it. It's a very accomplished feeling. Anyway, so think about that. Axel's running up the stairs and running into his bedroom. So think about that. Putting up those raised beds and bringing in compost, that's an even bigger cut into your profit margin. Here's what tulips do bring to the table though. Not only are they amazing, at once upon a time, they were my favorite flower. They were my wedding flower. I'm not gonna show you the pictures on that one, but they're fantastic. They provide that burst of color in early spring when everyone is craving it. And they're gonna bring your customers in and say, hey, I have flowers here. And then you say, you like that? Wait till you see what I have later on. Plus, I mean, I was even harvesting mine in the snow this year. It was kind of crazy. We had a really late snow. So daffodils are not like no work at all. It is recommended every 5 or 6 years that you do dig up the bulbs and separate them, because if they become too crowded, because they do like to multiply, they will stop blooming for you if they become overcrowded. So every 5 or 6 years you do have to put a little bit of work in, but really they're just put them in once and enjoy them for years to come. You also have to consider animal damage. Like think about the squirrels and the chipmunks, and I know tulips are a favorite of theirs. I did have a mouse living in my tulip bed this past spring. It was kind of adorable. I know some people are skeeved out by mice. Animals don't freak me out at all. I don't snake, spiders, mice, none of that freaks me out. But I was harvesting a tulip and this little mouse had just peeked out, hello, like right from underneath, and it was the cutest thing. And I didn't even get mad. I was like, just take a little nibble off the side of the bulbs. Don't eat the whole thing, please. And she didn't, she was fine. Anyway, I'm just daydreaming about all the spring bulbs that I'll be picking in just a few short months, really. We're almost to the end of January, and you know, the snow's gonna be disappearing here over the next 6 weeks. Sometimes we still have snow in April, so who knows? It's been known to snow on Mother's Day here. So we do definitely have a lot more snow and a lot more winter, but we also have something to look forward to. So I wanna know, what spring bulbs are you guys looking forward to the most? And tell me what you planted. And don't forget to tag me on Instagram. I love when you guys tag me. I see all the pictures that you're growing. It's hard here on YouTube. There's no, like you can't share a picture with me. But on Instagram, if you tag at Flower Hill Farm New York, NY, then at least I'll be able to see all your pictures, and I get so excited when that happens. So thank you so much. All right guys, that'll do it for this video. See you soon. Tag me.